2hollis and Nate Sib are some of the most refreshing and exciting artists the underground music space has to offer. And these two just dropped a collab that displays the main factor that makes their music so unique: the production. So today I'm lifting the veil and going over all of 2hollis and Nate Sib's production secrets. And this includes their EDM inspired drums, infectious bass lines, simplistic yet effective melodies, and masterful arrangement. So if you want to learn some insanely helpful techniques which will make you a much more well-rounded producer, stick around till the end of the video. So with that being said, the first portion of their production style that I want to cover is going to be the drums. And before I get too deep into this video, I want to mention that every single sound that you hear in this beat, unless otherwise specified, is from my Zenith multi-kit. And this kit contains a full drum kit, serum bank, and loop kit, which are perfect for making EDM or hyperpop style beats. So if you like the sounds you hear in this beat and you want them for yourself, check it out in the description down below. But yeah, enough of this. Let's get into the drums. And drums in this style are characterized by four main things. The first of which is going to be a 4 on the floor kick pattern. Essentially all that means is the kick is matching our tempo. So the tempo's going 1, 2, 3, 4, the kick is hitting. Along with that, you're gonna want offbeat hi-hats. So you don't want them hitting on the 1, 2, 3, 4. You want them hitting on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The third thing you're gonna need is a snare hitting on the 2 and the 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the fourth and final thing that you'll need are going to be open hats to add depth to your drums. So altogether, this is what your drums should sound like if you're following this formula. This is pretty much the exact same drum pattern that's playing in Afraid by 2hollis and Nate Sib, their most recent song. And you'll notice throughout this beat, I derive elements of that song and integrate them into this beat, which leads us beautifully into the next portion of their production that I want to cover, which is going to be the bass lines. Now, Afraid by 2hollis and Nate Sib is in the key of G sharp major. And by isolating the bass line and figuring out which notes they play, I discovered that it was playing a progression going from the 4 to the 1 to the 6 to the 5 of the scale. So that's a bass line that you can use in your production, but I didn't want my beat to sound exactly the same as theirs, so I changed the bass line very slightly. Firstly, I put my bass line in A sharp major instead of G sharp major, and I have it playing a progression going from the 4 to the 1 to the 7 instead of the 6 to the 5. Very slight change, but that 1 to 7 interval adds a lot of tension in our melody. And you're gonna wanna throw down some type of distortion on your bass. I'm using Isotope Trash, but you could just use the distortion within Serum. It works perfectly fine. As well as that, something that I've noticed in a lot of 2hollis' production is that he will sidechain certain components of his beat to correspond with that 4 on the floor kick pattern. So I just have down Shaperbox with this volume automation sidechaining the bass. So with that being said, this is what the bass and the drums sound like together. Something I heavily recommend doing if you have a very simple bass line like I do is making 2 separate bass patterns and making the second one much more complex. So here's my second bass pattern, and as you can see, I'm making use of much more notes than I was originally. Doing something like this is just going to keep your beat fresh and make sure there's a lot of variation in it. That way it isn't just like the same thing playing over and over and over again. So now with that being said, the next portion of 2hollis and Nate Sib's production that I want to go over is going to be the melodies. And something I personally do when making melodies is I'll start off with one main melody component and then build off of that with a bunch of other melody chunks. But something that I've noticed that 2hollis and Nate Sib like to make use of is dispersing these melodic chunks. So in certain portions of the beat, there will only be one melodic component playing, and then in the next portion, there will only be one other melodic component playing, so on and so forth. And that's exactly the technique that we're using with this beat. I just made a bunch of different melodic components and have them dispersed throughout the beat. Now, as far as which sounds you should use, I recommend making use of distorted leads. Now, the first one that I'm making use of is just this distorted sine lead, and I specifically designed it to sound pretty much exactly the same as the sine lead from Afraid. And on top of that, it's playing a very, very similar pattern. As well as that, I threw down this 8-bit hyperpop sounding pluck from my Zenith multi-kit, and I have it playing an A-B-A-C structure. So to further explain what that means, we have 4 chunks in this melody. The first chunk, which is playing this melody, is A. The second chunk, which is playing a different melody, is B. The third chunk, which is playing the same melody as the first chunk, is also A, because it's playing the same melody. And the fourth chunk is playing a different melody from all the other chunks, so it is C. So yet again, A, B, A, C. This is a very, very common melody structure, and it lends itself very well to variation and suspense. On top of that, if you really want to stay true to the style, you're going to want to throw down some kind of piano melody. Now, this piano is from Keyscape, not from my Zenith multi-kit, but it is yet again making use of that A, B, A, C structure. And I have down 2 separate piano melodies, the second of which is also making use of that A, B, A, C structure. I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm repeating it because it's an insanely useful and effective structure for creating your melodies. So with that being said, this is what this portion with the piano melodies sound like. So now that I've covered the melody, the last portion of 2hollis and Nate Sib's production style that I want to cover is going to be the arrangement. And pretty much for the arrangement, the only thing you want to keep in your mind is make every single 8 bars different. Their production is insanely dynamic and energetic. There is always something changing. There is always something new being introduced. So whether it be through dispersing your melodic components, making separate bassline patterns, or introducing moments of silence within your beats, you want to make sure that there is something unique about every 8 bars in your beat. It's something that's going to take a little bit more effort and time, but it's going to result in a much more unique outcome. So with that being said, this is what your final product should sound like. And I'm also including the acapella of Afraid just to show how true to the style it really is.
What do you feel when you're afraid? Does everybody feel the same? How do you deal with change and trusting the fame? I got hit by a plane. What do you feel when you're awake? I'm trying to not make a mistake. Yeah, how do you deal with change and trusting the fame? I told God I'm safe. You told me shut up and laugh, you love it.
So that's going to completely cover all of the production secrets behind 2hollis and Nate Sib. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you have any questions at all, throw them in the comments down below and I will do my best to answer them. Also, consider checking out my Patreon where you get the FLPs to all of my beats in all of my videos, including this one. That way, if you wanted to study the melody, the mixing, the mastering, the arrangement, all that kind of stuff is right at your fingertips. Also, don't forget to check out the Zenith multi-kit if you like what you heard in this beat. Yet again, full drum kit, full serum bank, full loop kit. Check it out. Also, consider subscribing as I post 1 tutorial a week and 1 sound kit a month. Other than that, that's going to be it. Peace!